Hey there guys, John Campea here, and thanks for visiting my movie vlog. You know, movies are amazing things. Every single motion picture has millions of elements and decisions and moments and characters and dialogue and visuals, all that come together to make a good movie or a bad movie. And because there are so many elements, even the best of movies will have some things that weren't so good, but even the worst of films will have some redeemable qualities as well. Hence today we're talking about Fantastic Four. The 2015 incarnation is indisputably one of the most disappointing cinematic experience that a lot of us have had in years. Yeah, true story. I completely drank the Kool-Aid on this movie. I bought in. I thought I liked the trailers. I liked the filmmakers. I liked the cast. I thought this movie was going to be really good. Yeah, not so much. However, even within this disappointing turd that single-handedly killed a franchise on its first movie, there are some good and redeemable things. So here are 5 things that I thought were actually good about the 2015 Fantastic Four movie. Number 1, the first act of the movie and the setup to the film. You know, I really thought it was a cool decision to go back to all the way to when Ben and Reed were children, and that's when they met each other. That's when they started to form their bond, and we got to see that Reed was very scientifically enabled at that time already. I actually thought that was a pretty key decision because when they fast forward later to when they're older now, we already understand their bond. We don't have to be convinced of their bond at that point because we know we've seen them together as children and what brought them together, and that Reed's love of science is kind of what kept them together. Even though Ben was just tagging along and being the guy who always had Reed's back, you felt it and you believed it. We meet the characters, we see them brought together, and whether or not we liked or absolutely hated what they did with Johnny Storm or what they did with Victor Von Doom, the way they brought them all together and we saw them come together as a unit at the beginning, I thought was done quite well and set up what could have been a pretty decent movie from that on forward. I even remember sitting in the theater at the Fox lot watching the movie with a bunch of other critics, and the first 20 or 30 minutes passed by and a whole bunch of us looked at each other and said, "What are people talking? This actually isn't that bad. This is okay so far." Yeah, well, that all went to shit pretty quick after that now, didn't it? Good thing number 2 about the Fantastic Four. Reg E. Cathy as Franklin Storm. I rewatched the Fantastic Four so I could make this video, and it was really cool seeing him pop up because I just recently watched The Wire for the first time, so seeing him in there was really cool. Every story like this needs the anchor, or needs a sensei figure, if you will. A Obi-Wan Kenobi, sort of, if you will. That more mature guiding hand that brings the team together and sets their ideals, that shapes what they will become later on. And I thought the way they portrayed this particular character, Franklin Storm, really fit that mold extremely well. He was a believable, wise, but not too overly smart. He was brave as a father and as a scientist. He had great vision, and all at the same time, you felt the emotional links between him and, first of all, his children, Sue and Johnny, but also the connection that he had to Reed right away. The third good thing about Fantastic Four, and I know a lot of you want to yell at me for saying this, but is the cast. Look, Miles Teller, Mara Rooney, Michael B. Jordan, and the rest of the cast as well were all really good actors, and one of the reasons that I actually drank the Kool-Aid on this film before seeing it, believing that it was going to be good, because these guys are all world-class talents. One of the weaknesses of this film was not the performances the actors gave. The actors pretty much gave the best performance that you could possibly get out of that script. Let's not hold the actors responsible for all the ridiculous things their characters said and did. All the actors can do is take the script and give as good of a performance to those characters as they possibly can. Let's not blame them for the demise of the movie. I actually thought the cast was very good, and I thought they brought as much as they possibly could. The fourth thing that I thought was pretty good about the Fantastic Four was the way they changed up the origin story a little bit and had them get their powers from an alternate dimension as opposed to outer space. I thought this was a brave decision on their part because really, you can explain in a narrative about how these 4 incredibly bright kids are a part of a science project to visit another dimension and they get caught up in that. You can explain that. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with the classic origin story of the Fantastic Four. All I'm saying is that if they were going to take a little bit of liberties with their origin and kind of modernize it a little bit, I thought the alternate dimension aspect was a pretty smart thing to do. It fit in well with where their characters were at, and it did explain how they get some kind of mystical powers all of a sudden. And the fifth good thing that I appreciated about the Fantastic Four was the character design and the visual effects of both the Thing and the Human Torch. I thought the Thing in this movie was a massive massive step up from the Michael Chiklis in costume thing that we got in the previous films. No, physical, real-life man-in-suit costumes aren't always better. Sometimes CG is better, and I thought the CG here was great. They should have done something different with his voice, the Thing at least. Absolutely, I agree with that completely, but I thought the look of the Thing was actually really good. Same thing with the Human Torch. They made him look distinct from the Human Torch that we saw in the Chris Evans version of the Fantastic Four, and we got to see him do his own thing here, and I thought it looked great and actually played out really well. So there you have it, guys. 5 good, redeemable things about the Fantastic Four movie. Now, I'm not going to bother making a 7-hour video about all the things that were bad about this film. You already know all those terrible things. Anyway, guys, as always, the most important thing here is, what do you think of the Fantastic Four? Can you think of some other redeemable things about this movie? Or maybe you like the movie. All film is subjective. That's the beautiful thing about movies. Jump into the comments section and let me know your thoughts. And while you're here, please make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Make sure you're following me on social media, on Facebook and on Twitter, simply @John Campea. That'll do it for me, guys. Thanks for visiting my movie vlog, and until next time, bye-bye.